Hi everyone, my name is Kartik and my channel is on mental models. In this video I'll be looking at the Occam's razor mental model. To recap from my previous video, the word razor has a special meaning. It means that the mental model works by removing or shaving away the unlikely explanations such that you are left with the likely ones. This is a very useful mental model as it helps solve problems quickly and efficiently. Now the model is loosely defined as where there are differing explanations or proposals, then the simplest one is often the best. And by simplest we mean that it's the one, or the proposal or the explanation, it's the one with the fewest assumptions or fewest entities. And by entities we mean things. Now you've probably heard of the term muscle memory. Now muscle memory is where if a person repeats an action or the same action on a regular basis, it will become a habit. And once this habit forms, they will no longer need to think about carrying the action out. The body will carry the action out automatically. This is because the corresponding neural pathways formed, and so you will use less energy to complete the same action. Now after all of this is done, if you have a choice to complete the action the muscle memory way or another way, your body will always go for the muscle memory option rather than the alternative, because it's simpler, and it will only do it another way if you are forced, if you're forced to do it another way, or you are consciously trying to actually do it another way, such as trying to unlearn the muscle memory way. Now this muscle memory, this is what I like to call a real life demonstration of Occam's razor, where you have two different ways to do the same thing and your body chooses the simpler or easier method. And I like to think because of this, we're all using Occam's razor in one way or another without probably even realizing it. Now, a moment ago, I gave the loose definition that the simplest proposal or explanation is often the best. Now, the key word here is the word often. And I've used the word often and not the word always. And the reason for that is sometimes the simplest option is not the best. So there are two caveats that I want to propose. The first one is, as I've just mentioned, the simplest option is not often true. So you might have a more complex option. And this is because the world is complex, and in some cases a more complex answer or a more complex proposal will be the correct one. Now the second caveat is, let me explain it first, is that you can't simply use simplicity to justify the reason for selecting a way forward. So if you've got two proposals and one is simple and one is a little bit difficult, just to say, well, I'm taking the simple one because it is simple, is not the way this mental model works. It's not the correct way to use this mental model. The reason for choosing a way forward must be backed by something other than simplicity. So let's say backed by evidence. Just going to call it that. Yeah. Now taking these two caveats into consideration together with the definition, the point with this mental model, and this is the key thing, is that you shouldn't complicate something if there is a simpler way that is prepared with which to go forward with. So the idea is not to unnecessarily complicate something or a proposal or a way to go forward. Now, there's a lot of information here, but I'll sort of take a few examples to explain this. Example 1. There is a popular expression that a pupil would say to his teacher, which you may have heard of, which is, "My dog ate my homework." So teacher asks a student for their homework, and the pupil says, "Oh, the dog ate my homework." Is the pupil telling the truth? Is the student telling the truth? So looking at this through Occam's razor, firstly, let's look at the statement. Let's look at the "my dog ate my homework." In order for this to be true, we have to make the following assumptions. Firstly, the pupil had a dog. If the dog ate the homework, it can't be true without the pupil having a dog. The second assumption is the dog has to be big enough in order to chew on the paper. They can't be a small puppy or just a newborn puppy. The third assumption is that the pupil did do the homework, so homework tick, and they left it in sight of the dog. So they did the homework and they put it on the table in front of the dog so the dog could then see the homework and maybe chew at the paper. So there's a few assumptions that need to be true in order for this statement to be true. Now, if we look at the competing argument, the simplest assumption is that the student did not do the homework. There was no homework done. And so we don't really need to sort of break that down any further. And looking at it through Occam's razor, which is the simplest explanation is often the best, the simpler one being the one with the fewer entities or the fewer assumptions, is that the homework was not done. So going back to the question of, is the student telling the truth? Did the dog eat the homework? It doesn't look like the dog ate the homework because this reasoning is, or this explanation is the simpler one and therefore more likely to be true. Let me look at another example. Example 2. Let me call this one illness. Let's say I fall ill and there are 3 competing explanations of why this happened. Now, firstly, the first one, let's call this which. So this assumption, or this competing theory or proposal, is that a witch has cast a spell on me and therefore I have become ill. The second one is that there are germs, and these germs have somehow got into my body, causing me to be ill. And thirdly, someone has poisoned me, and because they've poisoned me, I've fallen ill. So those are, let's say, the three theories. Now, in order to find out which explanation is the most likely through Occam's razor, we need to sort of look at what the assumptions are, what the entities are. So let's look at the which one first. So in order for the which explanation to be true, the witch cast a spell on me and therefore I fell ill, in order for that to be true, the first assumption is witches need to exist. Witches need to exist. Then the second assumption is that they need to have these powers. These powers also need to exist. Then the third one is that I need to be in contact with the witch. They can't sort of make me ill through email or a telephone call, so I need to be there in front of the witch for them to cast their spell on me. Now there's probably other assumptions, but let's just say these are the three big ones. Let's look at the second one, that there are germs and they've made me ill. So the first assumption for that is, well, germs need to exist, similar to the witches. The second thing is that germs are tiny and they can easily pass into my body without me knowing. And thirdly, germs can make us ill. So that's also an assumption. If germs are not potent enough or they can't make anyone ill, then this theory falls apart. Finally, the third one, that I was poisoned. So the theory was that I was poisoned and that's why I fell ill. So the first, I suppose, assumption is that I was in contact with, or I was in close proximity with the person that wanted to poison me. Number two, there is someone that actually does want to poison me. The third assumption is, for this to be true, I have unknowingly eaten or drunk the poison. So it's been mixed into a drink or it's been mixed into food and I've eaten that without knowing. The fourth reason is, I suppose this is not really an assumption, but it's something to be conscious of, that I didn't do it. I didn't self-poison myself. And finally, similar to the third point here for the germs, the poison has to be sufficiently potent enough to make me feel ill. So and again, there might be some other assumptions as well, but let's say these are the big ones. So out of all of these three proposals, three scenarios, we've got sort of five big things here on the poison side. So this looks like it was the least likely from an Occam's razor perspective, because the one with the fewest assumptions, with the fewest entities, is the simplest and therefore it's often the best. So this looks like the least likely option. Now, looking at witches and germs, they've got three assumptions, three entities each. And the thing with, or the differing thing between this is what you believe in, whether you believe witches exist or germs exist, or both. And if you believe that witches exist but germs don't exist, through the Occam's razor mental model, you will pick the witch explanation rather than the germs one. But if you believe that germs exist but witches don't, then you would pick the germs option. And the reason for that is that in order for you to believe that witches exist when you don't, and witches have certain powers when you don't believe they have certain powers, is a very high hurdle, and therefore you need to sort of in all of the things that you believe exist in this world, you need to add something more. You need to add witches, you need to add their powers, and therefore if you don't believe that witches exist, that is a very high hurdle, and as such you would probably pick this middle one as the most likely from an Occam razor point of view. That's not to say that if you don't believe in germs and you do believe in witches, you'd still pick the second one. Then the reverse holds, and you would say that the witch explanation has a lot more credibility. Now, both of these examples are looking at events that have already happened, and Occam's razor is being used to decide on the most plausible reason. The dog ate the homework, I've fallen ill. So let's look at another example where we've got something a bit more real time, a bit more current. So let's say we've got example 3, which is noises. Now you wake up in the middle of the night to extremely loud noises coming from the air. It's sort of 2 a.m. in the morning, and you can work out that there are noises in the sky, nothing on ground level. And the first thing you could think about is that the country is at war, and your neighborhood is being targeted by planes dropping bombs. Another reason is that you could think of is that your neighbor has climbed up on the roof and is throwing stones and bricks at your roof, at your house in the middle of the night, and that's what's causing the loud noises. Or finally, you could sort of think that there are thunderstorms. Now, there are various assumptions that can be made about all of these, but in order to confirm which one it is, the best way to do this is to simply look out of the window. And so you get up and you look out of the window and you see that it is essentially raining heavily, and there are flashes of light and loud noises which lead you to believe that the noises are thunderstorms. So this is an example of Occam's razor being backed up by some evidence and not relying on simplicity alone. It goes back to my second caveat here. And whereas things that have happened in the past, it's, let's say, backing it by evidence is sort of, it's already there, it's already done. This is in real time, so you can actually look for the evidence and analyze. So there you have 3 examples. One final example, one final bonus example that I'm going to give you. Bonus example 4. Let's say you have a company that has issued a bond, and a bond is a type of debt instrument. And you've done some analysis on the company and you believe that there is a risk that the company could default on the loan. So what do? Now, you could presume that because of that there will be a fall in the value of the bond. So therefore there's a fall in the value. Therefore you could short the bond to take advantage of the potential fall in price. Or assuming that you don't have exposure to the underlying bond already, what you could do is purchase a CDS, which is a credit default swap. So you've got two options there. This is option 1, you can short the bond, and this is option 2, you can purchase a CDS for that company. Now, out of the two routes, out of the two options, purchasing the CDS is a cleaner way of potentially gaining from the rising credit risk. So this is the cleaner way. And a CDS doesn't have to be created. It's already prepared. It's already ready to go, as it were, with which you can sort of go into the market and purchase. And so, as Occam's razor is about not complicating something unnecessarily, going back to sort of this point here, and sort of using something that's already prepared with which to go forward, taking this CDS option, taking this CDS way forward, in this instance would be the simpler way, the cleaner way, and therefore Occam's razor would suggest to use that option rather than shorting the bond, which is less clean and more complicated. And so this, in a nutshell, is Occam's razor, and it's about the simplest proposals or explanations being often the best way forward. And it's more about not to complicate something if there is a simpler way with which to go forward. And that's all for this video. That's Occam's razor. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video with another mental model. Thank you. Bye bye.